Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Clarisse Fortuné and these are the headlines. A major blow to paramilitary forces in Sudan. The army reclaims the presidential palace in Khartoum after 2 years of war. But the RSF says it is not over. A day after Kirsty Coventry was elected president of the International Olympic Committee, Zimbabwe is celebrating the first African and the first woman to hold the most powerful role in sport. We'll go to Harare, where young swimmers are vying for the same Olympian achievements. And Paris celebrates 50 years of anti-colonial resistance from the 1950s. An exhibition showcases hundreds of artists and intellectuals from the Americas, the Caribbean, and Africa. The Sudanese army and its supporters are celebrating nationwide after reclaiming the presidential palace in Khartoum. Friday's victory marks the army's most symbolic achievement since launching a major counteroffensive against the Rapid Support Forces last September. When the civil war began 2 years ago, the RSF controlled much of the capital. However, in recent months, the Sudanese army has regained significant ground, leaving the RSF with only a few remaining strongholds in the city. Olivia Bizot reports.
In just a week, the RSF went from vowing never to leave the presidential palace to losing it. On Friday, videos surfaced of army troops inside the ruined building, later confirmed by the military on state television. Hours later, an RSF drone struck the palace, killing soldiers and 3 journalists, an apparent act of revenge. So, despite this symbolic win, the army's grip on Khartoum remains shaky as the RSF still holds parts of the capital and much of western Sudan.
Khartoum has been the war's big prize, and recapturing it has been the Sudanese army's main objective of the war. So I do think the focus will remain on Khartoum for now, but then we would start to see more of the war shift into the Kordofan region and into the western Darfur region. It's likely the Sudanese armed forces want to basically push RSF militarily until they can offer something like terms of surrender. I think that would probably be the military objective of SAF. But that could spell a lot more war, and there's no guarantee they would actually get to that point.
Until that happens, ordinary Sudanese will continue paying the highest price. Sudan is facing the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Millions, if not tens of millions, are on the brink of famine. But most of those at risk are in areas still controlled by the RSF, which means that the army's recapture of Khartoum will not provide any immediate relief to them. The main issue isn't a lack of funding, but the fact that delivering humanitarian aid has been nearly impossible, as both the army and the RSF continue to obstruct key supply routes.
And meanwhile, the war has been pushing thousands into exile. One of the most traveled escape routes leads to Chad, where over 800,000 Sudanese refugees have arrived since 2023. Chad has a long tradition of being a refuge for its neighbors, so much so that some who fled the 2003 war in Sudan are now crossing paths with those who've just only arrived, and resources are stretched thin. Harold Gerard reports.
Adam Musa Ali is one of many Sudanese refugees who've lived in Chad for over 15 years. The Farchana camp, once a temporary shelter, has grown into a village.
I've been here in this camp since 2006. In the beginning, there was nothing. No welding, no materials, not even electricity. I had to rent a generator to start this work and make life easier for the residents. Back then, if something broke, people had to send it for repairs in Andre.
NGOs operate quietly here, but they're vital. Farchana heavily relies on aid from the Chadian government and the United Nations. But that support is gradually shrinking as crises pile up all over the world. Meanwhile, since 2023, the new war in Sudan has been sending hundreds of thousands more refugees into Chad.
There used to be more humanitarian aid here, but with the number of crises across Sudan and the world today, organizations can no longer do as much as before.
This is the single entry point into Chad for Sudanese refugees. The pressure is growing as dozens more arrive every day in desperate need of humanitarian aid.
I will take whatever is given to me at this point. I'd like to join the camp and receive a refugee card. If I can get money or food, I'll accept it.
Chad's ability to host refugees is being pushed to its limits, as more than 800,000 Sudanese have arrived in less than 2 years.
The facilities were originally built to handle a specific number of people and for a limited time. So with the arrival of new refugees, these facilities are now saturated.
2 years in, Sudan's war is fueling one of the worst humanitarian crises on the planet, and calls to secure the funding needed to address it are more urgent.
Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and Rwandan leader Paul Kagame met just this week in Qatar to discuss the conflict in eastern DRC, raising hope for a possible ceasefire. But Rwanda-backed M23 rebels have captured yet another strategic town. Emmett Livingston reports from Kinshasa.
M23 rebels, backed by Rwanda, have captured the town of Walikale in the province of North Kivu in eastern Congo. According to diplomats, security officials and aid workers, the rebels took control over Wednesday and Thursday. On Friday, several witnesses reported artillery fire and said that Congolese fighter jets bombed the area. A Congolese military spokesman said the rebel advance in the Walikale area, which is rich in minerals such as tin, proved that the M23 was motivated by mineral wealth. Since January, the M23 has captured eastern Congo's two largest cities, Goma and Bukavu, a dramatic escalation in a conflict that started in late 2021. Diplomatic pressure, including Western sanctions, hasn't slowed the fighting. This week, Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and Rwandan leader Paul Kagame met in Qatar to discuss the conflict. But M23 leaders said that the meeting didn't concern them. This fits a pattern that has been repeated again and again over the 3 years of conflict. On several occasions, the M23 has advanced during high-level talks between Congo and Rwanda, arguing that those state-level talks don't concern the group. But Rwanda heavily supports the M23, according to independent UN experts, both with thousands of troops on the ground and with high-tech weaponry.
Namibia has a new president. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah became the first female president after her SWAPO party secured victory in both the presidential and parliamentary elections in November. At her swearing-in ceremony, she pledged to boost investments in the agriculture sector and diversify the resource-focused economy in an attempt to address high unemployment rates. Several African heads of state traveled to attend the event. Among them were the presidents of South Africa, Angola, and Tanzania. Concerns are growing over the fate of Sandra Muhoza. She's a journalist for the Burundian news site La Nova Burundi. Her appeal trial, scheduled for a few days ago, has once again been postponed, this time to March 26. This is the fourth time the date has been pushed back for various reasons, for administrative errors to the unavailability of a prison transport vehicle. Our regional correspondent Juliette Montilli has more.
It was only a few hours before the trial was set to begin that Sandra Muhoza's lawyers learned that the hearing would be held inside Pimba Central Prison, where the journalist is currently detained. But despite this last-minute change, they were ultimately denied entry, according to sources close to the case. A decision that has sparked anger, but above all, deep concern among Muhoza's relatives. The journalist was arrested by intelligence services in April 2024. She was initially sentenced to 21 months in prison for undermining national integrity and racial aversion after sharing in a WhatsApp group information regarding an alleged distribution of weapons by the government. The prosecution appealed, and Sandra Muhoza now faces 12 years in jail on the same charges. Speaking to France 24, Sadibou Marong, the head of Reporters Without Borders Sub-Saharan Africa office, condemned the charges as baseless baseless and confirmed that the case has been referred to the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Expression in Africa. Burundi currently ranks 108th in Reporters Without Borders Press Freedom Index. Once home to one of the region's most vibrant media landscapes, Burundi press freedom has deteriorated sharply since the failed coup of 2015 and the political crisis that followed.
Zimbabwe has been celebrating the election of Zimbabwean double Olympic swimming champion as IOC president. Kirsty Coventry is to become the first woman and also the first African to hold the most powerful role in sport at the 10th International Olympic Committee. Zimbabwe is, of course, very proud. And our reporter Sharon Mazin-Gaizo went to a swimming pool in Harare, where Kirsty Coventry did her training and where she continues to inspire.
We are here at Kirsty Coventry's old school. This is the swimming pool that she swam in, that she did her swimming lessons in. We are here celebrating Kirsty Coventry as the president-elect of the IOC. Kirsty Coventry has been a huge inspiration for the young girls at this school, for the young girls in Zimbabwe. Also, she's been an inspiration for Africa as the most successful female swimmer in Africa.
Well, I never really thought I'd be a swimmer, but I remember watching Kirsty, and her backstroke was just beautiful. Her long strokes, it was captivating. I just fell in love with it, and I decided I should try it, and now this is where I am, and I would really like, and I would really aspire to reach the level she has reached.
For Zimbabwe, Kirsty Coventry had 7 medals. For Africa, she is the most successful female swimmer. In Zimbabwe, she also managed to have a swimming academy teaching young girls and boys how to swim. To be the IOC president, it's a huge, momentous occasion for Zimbabwe and for Africa as a whole. There is so much joy, so much celebration, and so much hope in it. Kirsty's appointment is a huge occasion for Zimbabwe and for Africa as the first woman, the first African, and the youngest.
And only one step from sport to art. From the 1950s to 2000, Paris was a vibrant Pan-African intellectual hub. And today, a major exhibition is retracing the influence of Black artists and intellectuals from the Caribbean, the Americas, and Africa. Paris Pompidou Center highlights the political impact of their art. Laurent Bersecher has the story.
A deep dive into 20th century Paris to understand the historical role and influence of Black artists in the French capital. The Paris Noir exhibition is a voyage through the decades, highlighting the city's history of civil rights and anti-colonial struggles.
Paris Noir is a very ambitious group show showcasing 150 artists across the Caribbean, Africa, and the US. And it really follows this incredible epic of decolonization in Paris.
In the 1950s, many African-American artists flocked to Paris after fleeing racial segregation in the US. Together with African artists hailing from French colonies, they helped create the Pan-African movement through their collective struggle for civil rights and racial justice.
Here, what you can feel is what is this Black consciousness. And it's a shared experience based on the experience of slavery and based on the experience of racism that is shared by most of the artists of the exhibition.
The exhibition features over 300 works by artists of African descent, many of whom had never been displayed in France. Around 40 of these pieces will now remain in Paris as part of the museum's permanent collection.
It's a baby step for many French institutions, many French museums and French universities to start working on these artists.
The Paris Noir exhibition runs until the end of June. It's one of the final shows before the Pompidou Center closes its doors for a 5-year renovation.
A beautiful exhibition to conclude our edition of Eye on Africa. Thank you for watching. More news coming up on France 24.